I wanted to ask you about Lane Taylor quick, if I can. Obviously, he's been through quite a bit over this past year, but what did you think of just the camp that he put together? And I think he's actually probably the fourth longest tenured guy on this team now. Just very quietly, what did you think of his production?
Yeah, I think he's been really solid for us. I think there was some sentiment that he might not get a chance to come back after last year, especially with the way that Elton played and Lane's injury. His status moving forward was uncertain, but he's come in and been really, really steady for us to where you cannot keep him off the field. He's been that productive for us. Lane's got a really good approach. I think he's an even-keeled guy mentally, but he brings good base and some nastiness in the run game. He's been a good pass blocker his entire career. So I'm really happy for him. He is a very steady presence. Even last year, as he, started the season for us, I thought he played well. Obviously, Elton was going to get on the field at some point. But the fact that Lane came back this year and has been so productive, there's been many times we've stopped the film in the QB room and just kind of watched back Lane, getting out and blocking a guy downfield, or Lane running on a screen, and just marveling at, how good he looks moving and running and with his base as well.
Hey, Aaron, where does one get a shirt like that? And then the more serious question would be, this time of year, do you usually have a feel for what you've got? And if so, what do you think you've got? Do you have a really high hopes for this year?
Bill, I'm not sure. I think there's probably a little Google search you could do. And I wore this shirt at a conference in Southern California and ran into Bill Walton, and Bill commented on the shirt and was wondering where the hell I got it and why I was wearing it. And then went into a story about how he met Mark Eaton, 7'4", working as a mechanic in town, and talked to Coach Wooden about him getting a scholarship to UCLA. And then Mark went on to have a nice long career in the NBA. I'm a fan of semi-obscure 80s and 90s basketball players, as my friends know, and my buddy Ryan got me this shirt. Now, to your answer, I would say that, I think this camp has been so different because of the lack of preseason games. It's changed the kind of the schedule of practice, the feeling. Obviously, going through a preseason where you start to play a little bit in games 2 and 3, and you really kind of see what you've got from a playmaking standpoint in these games. I've said many times the practices are as important, if not more important, than the games, but the games do show you kind of that little extra. There's always one or two guys that jump out when it's tackling to the ground, when you can make guys miss and there's not quick whistles blown, when you can break tackles or make tackles. There's always a couple guys that kind of show out. So that's been a little different. So as far as what we have at this point, I think that we're still, like many teams around the league, probably just trying to figure out who's going to be in what spot, and it's going to be an interesting first week.
And this is a little off topic, but I'm just curious what you've thought of Alex Smith's comeback. I know he's a good buddy of yours. You guys go way back, and just how impressed you've been that he's now playing football again after what he's been through.
Yeah, I'm just really proud to know him. To kind of watch his rehab. I was asked by a few people, what is he doing? And I thought, I'd be doing the same thing. I think when you're a competitor, and I know Alex is, I've known him for a long time, obviously, and just the drive that he has, I think he wanted to prove it to himself he could come back and compete still. So, he's a great guy, has a great family. He's been a great face of this league for so many years. I've enjoyed competing against him. I've enjoyed watching him. And he's one of the NFL good guys, and it's fun. I think there's so many people who've been pulling for him in his recovery, and especially after watching, the piece on him. How can you not pull for that guy? He's a spectacular guy, and I hope he gets an opportunity to play this year.
You are about to join Bart, Starr, and Brett Favre as the only players to play 16 years for the Packers. What does that mean to you?
Well, that's great company. Obviously, I became really close with Bart, during my early years and even into my late years until he passed. Still love Cherry and the family down there. Favre and I have become really close the last couple of years. I just have so much respect for the guys who played here before me. I think, when you're a Packer, as long as I am, you every year I think gain a little bit more of an appreciation for the history of this squad and the organization, what we've accomplished, the great names. Every now and then you let your mind drift a little bit to one day possibly having your name up there. It's pretty special to be mentioned with those guys because I know how much they've accomplished. And like I said, I always wanted to start and finish here, and it's been a great run to get to this point. I've had so much fun, and we've accomplished some pretty awesome things, and hopefully we got another couple rides.
Hey, Aaron, it seemed that you've thrown an awful lot to your running backs in camp this year. Is that just a byproduct of the talent, the receiving talent that you have in the backfield, or is that kind of the next iteration of year two in this playbook and more by design?
That's a good question, Ryan. I think a little bit of both. I think, as I've felt more comfortable in the offense in my second year and really trusting my feet even more, I find myself hitching less to the receivers and just kind of quicker through my reads down to the backs. But the other part of it is that there's a lot of talent there in the receiving room. We saw it from Jamal's Instagram all summer. But, I'm going to start with him just because I think he's made the biggest leap. He really has had a fantastic camp. And Jamal is such an energy guy for us. He brings so much to our team from that standpoint. But I think he's really transformed his body even to the next step. And he's been extremely explosive in the run game. He sets a great example of how to finish every single time he touches the football. And I'm really proud of Jamal. He's been a great leader for us, especially being in a room with a guy who, had 19 rushing touchdowns, I believe, last year. Just an amazing number. And is extremely humble. Both those guys are very humble guys. They love to have fun, and Jamal especially is a great dancer. But they're very humble guys. Same with Swerve. And just super athletic. And really good hands for the most part. So it's been a lot of fun getting those guys involved in the passing game.
Okay, kind of asked this to Matt earlier today too. Granted, last year was learning a new system, but this year kind of refining that system, taking it to year two. How comfortable do you feel considering it was all virtual until 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable this year than last year. I think it's like I just mentioned in the previous answer. A lot of it's just footwork, just being able to progress through my reads quicker, and I think it's allowed me to play on time and to be a little more accurate. I feel like I've had a pretty accurate training camp. I've said it many times. Accuracy comes from the timing and rhythm and balance, but it also comes from timing up your drops with the correct progressions. And now I feel really good about the progressions. It's been easier to kind of throw the ball on time and accurately. And so that's been the biggest step for me this camp, I think.
Hey, Aaron, this time last week, the Bucks boycotted their NBA game. And I know you spoke last Monday in regards to social justice. I'm just curious to hear how you feel like your emotions have developed since seeing what the Bucks did, and how athletes, not on your team, but across all sports, have responded to social justice.
Well, I think what Mark said on behalf of the organization was appreciated by our players. I think there's been sentiment at times with sports figures to kind of keep the sports and leave the politics or the whatever it might be, any subject other than sports, leave that alone. And I think as we've seen our NBA brothers and Major League Baseball, talking about these issues head on, and I think it's been good to keep the conversation going. But I think that what we're trying to do here in Green Bay is put actions to words. And I'm proud of the organization about making a commitment for body cams for the City of Green Bay police officers. I think that's something that both the cops want and folks who want better treatment from the police officers want. It's accountability. I think there's been conversations about standards. I think relating it to what we do. There's a standard that we're held to in this organization, both on and off the field. And if you don't meet that standard, you don't get to be a Green Bay Packer anymore. And I think, I think a lot of people just want the same standards for whatever job you're in. But the issues that we're talking about right now, social justice issues. We just want the highest standards, especially when it comes to simple things. It seems like what's right and what's wrong. We want those standards to be upheld. So we've had some great conversations with members of the state assembly, the governor's office, and we're going to focus probably on some more local things after the task force was formed, after Monday's special session called by the governor was kind of opened and closed pretty quickly.
Aaron, shifting gears, I don't know in the wake of the draft if I expected you to come in, grumpy or pissed off or what to training camp, but in talking with Tim Boyle and Mercedes, they've talked a lot about what a great mood you've been in and how you've been fun and everything else. What kind of mood have you been in? And then also, why have you been as sharp as you've been? It looks like you've had a really sharp camp in addition to having a lot of fun during it.
Well, I think just like the 2011 off season, the extra time was beneficial for those of us who chose to work on ourselves during that time. And I think that was the important thing. I think the more that we work on ourselves and we learn to love ourselves, the more we can love others better. And when you're feeling good about yourself and confident and loving others, it's naturally going to put you in a better mood. I think my quality of life has been pretty high based on some important decisions I've made in my own life, and just finding my center a little bit better during these strange months in the off season. So I came in excited to see the guys, excited to continue to build relationships with them and get to know them. I have a lot of close friends. You mentioned a couple of them in Big Dog and Tim on the squad, but I always enjoy looking forward to, seeing the guys and catching up and seeing how they're doing. And then the other part was, just taking a critical look at my play the last few years, and then going back to some previous years about what I felt like when I was playing really, really well, what was I doing slightly different than what I've been doing the last 5 years. And I picked up on some things and tried to start incorporating them into my daily routine. And you pair that with the positive attitude and the comfort in the offense, I think it's not surprising to me how the camp has gone.
Just wondering, you had mentioned earlier about the lack of preseason games. I was just wondering how you thought that might affect just league-wide the crispness of play, maybe the first couple of weeks, if that will have any impact one way or another.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think there's always conversation about how lack of play affects certain people. I mean, Adrian Peterson never played in the preseason for years and won MVP and was, the best running back of the era that I've seen. There's been many guys over the years who don't play a whole lot in preseason. It doesn't affect them. And there's always conversation about, is the tackling going to be worse? Is the standard of play going to be worse? Is the efficiency going to be worse? I don't know. Again, preseason football is not like regular season football. It's a very simplified version of it. Now, I think there's some things you can see from a play tempo and ability to make plays in those situations, but I trust the professionalism of my colleagues, my teammates, and then the competitive nature that kicks in once it really counts. Now, the weirdest thing will be the no fans for sure, because as a golf fan, and hearing Tiger and Phil and some of the longtime players talk about, how they enjoy feeding off of the energy in the crowd. It's very similar in our sport whether you're at home or on the road, there's an energy innate to those certain places that you're just not going to have. I mean, Minnesota is always a place that's tough to play. And, it's because that crowd is into it and it's loud. And even though in the stadiums, though, when you're on the road, you can feed off that energy. There's a joy in silencing a road crowd. And then, when you're playing at home at Lambeau, when things get rolling, it's just like a snowball going downhill. And I'll miss the wave and roll out the barrel and the beer races and the little idiosyncrasies that make, our stadium so special. So that'll be probably the strangest thing.
Aaron, first of all, I can't even believe you just said you're going to miss the wave. That's amazing. Second of all,
it's not on offense, not when we're on
offense. Well, that's what I'm talking about here. All right. You mentioned a little bit ago about going back and being critical of your own play, which is something I wanted to touch on in regards to the middle of the field, because I think looking at any numbers, any metrics, any film, it seems, especially in 2019, that you avoided the middle of the field a little bit, more so than many years in the past. And I've noticed just in the 2 weeks we saw you out on the field this summer, you seem to be really attacking the middle of the field, whether it's on play action. We've seen you hit MVS on some real timing stuff. You've attacked with Kumaro down the seam, Adams down the seam. Has that been a point of emphasis for you this year?
Not necessarily for me personally. I think it's always a percentage game, and there's been times where the highest percentage of completions in my mind have been outside the numbers for us. I think we've added some concepts that allow us to attack the middle of the field a little bit more. But a lot of times it's about the personnel on the field and who they're trying to take away. I think you're going to see teams looking obviously to stop 17 first, and then 33 as well. There's going to be opportunities to get down the seam often this year, and we're going to have to take advantage of that as we have in our most explosive offenses. And a lot of that, has been having, a tight end that can get down the middle, whether it was Jermichael for, a number of years or Jared Cook, having somebody who can do it. It doesn't always have to be a tight end. Jordy was always very effective inside. Randall Cobb, wasn't the biggest in stature, but could work the middle as well as anybody. So it's just finding that guy who can be that between the numbers, between the hashes, consistent route runner and catcher.
Aaron, I love the shirt. If you come up with a Paul Mokeski one next week, I will extremely love it. As you watch the NBA playoffs, and I got to have you put your sports analyst hat on because I know you're a big Bucks fan and part owner. Is it kind of like last year where you get punched in the mouth game one and you're not that worried about them? Are there concerns? And you kind of touched on it. Do you look at what they're doing and trying to channel their energy with fake crowd noise and this and that, whatever, and wonder how you're going to go about it in the same fashion or what they're going through as well?
Well, Lance, I think it's just a strange situation. Being able to play it at the Pfizer in Milwaukee is a tough task, because that place was definitely rocking last year. Being in the bubble, seeing everybody every day, and then the thing that I think, I'm not going to take anything away from Miami, they're an extremely talented team. It's maybe, a few months ago when the season took a hiatus, maybe people didn't think it was as tight on both sides. And now you look at the East and the West. Boston looks really good. Toronto looks really good. Obviously, we're the 1 seed. Miami, swept Indiana, which was surprising to a lot of basketball fans. They have a lot of really good young talent. Obviously the kid from our state is really, really good. And Jimmy Butler, obviously, is a star, went to Marquette. But I like our guys. I like our chances. We just got to shoot the ball a little bit better. We lost game one against Orlando and came back and won 4 in a row. So it'll be interesting. But I've enjoyed having basketball back for sure. Looking forward to another great game 7 tonight. Last night, I'm friends with Mike Conley. I was pulling for that shot to go down. But that was a great series for sure.
Aaron, thanks for reminding me that I was one of the few guys on the beat who can remember 1982. I was wondering when, in previous years, you've developed some kind of a relationship with a younger receiver, a Geronimo Allison, Lazard, Kumaro in camp. And the way you've kind of broken into ones and twos, has that been harder to do this year?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think oftentimes it's somebody that jumps out, like Allen did last year. I really feel like Allen Lazard jumped out, and it was every day we're watching the gold reps, and you're saying, "Who's 13?" I'm like, get him down on the green side at least for a couple of days. I need to see this guy against some ones and twos down here. I don't know that there's been that big of a jump this year. It's been tough, like I said, to not have preseason games and see some of these guys in live game action. But I would say that the receiver that I've been most impressed with, especially the last, week, 10 days of camp, is Marquez. I think he has had some really good practices in a row and started to lay down some good practice fundamentals that he can lean on. But at the same time, I know Matt said this at one point, this is the new standard for MVS. And I'm proud of the way that he's gone about his business. I thought he had a fantastic Sunday, made a bunch of plays, some heady plays, and just some plays he's supposed to make. He's making the catches he's expected to make, and he's adding some extra plays in there where he's doing some smart things and showing the growth. So I'm really proud of MVS. Obviously Devontae has been really solid for us, and Allen and Jake is super reliable, but it's been nice to see Marquez, especially the last 7-10 days, really turn it on.
Hey, Aaron, I'm guessing Tom would have appreciated a Tyrone Corbin shirt if you were going to go for an obscure Utah Jazz player. But
Tom's more of a Hornacek fan, he said.
The one thing I wanted to ask you was just how unsettling is the unsettled right tackle spot for you right now?
Yeah, it's slightly unsettled. I would say strong to quite strong on the unsettled department. It's just what we got to figure out at this point. We've had some injuries to both Rick and Billy during training camp. So, I'm sure those guys are, have a plan for whatever situation comes up. But kind of is what it is at this point. We got to figure this out. We might be just trial by fire come week one, but we're gonna need to be 7 or 8 or 9 deep, in the offensive line. I feel really good about the way that, like I said, Lane earlier, Lucas Patrick has done a really nice job. Alex Light, I think, has improved. The young guys, have been in the mix, and I think have shown some strides with Runyon and Hansen and LeGlue. I think there's some possibility for some really good depth up there, but we definitely need to shore up what it's going to look like on the right side.